Everyone, and for joining our panel today on Tech for Social Good. My name is Simon Walsh. I'm part of the customer team here at Pendula, and Pendula being a customer engagement platform, I'm fortunate to work with a myriad of organizations, both large and small, across a number of different industry verticals. But today, I'm really proud to have with us a group of customers and partners working in the not-for-profit and for-purpose space, to share their insights into how they're leveraging technology to not only solve problems that are unique or maybe not so unique to their organization, but also drive really meaningful outcomes as well. So with all that said, let's kick things off by meeting our panelists. So maybe starting in the order on the slide, maybe just a brief introduction, your name, your role, and the organization that you're a part of.
Awesome. Thanks, Simon. My name is Spencer Ratliff. I'm CEO at Able Foods. We're a specialist disability and aged care ready-made meal provider.
Hi, everyone. I'm Lisa Palmer, the CEO of Wildlife Victoria. We're a charity that operates a statewide wildlife emergency response service in Victoria.
Hi, my name is Jeff Chellis. I'm the Chief Technology at Payments to Us. We're an app exchange app used by fundraisers.
Hi, I'm Nicole Abimoyo. I'm the for-purpose practice lead at SalesFix, and we specialise in helping not-for-profits do things better with technology, specifically Salesforce.
Awesome. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us today. So I guess just to kick things off, really keen to understand a bit more about your organisation, your mission and the impact you're looking to drive. And I guess, where does technology sit in that process, and what kind of challenges are you looking to solve or measure using that technology?
Awesome. I'll kick things off. So look, at Able Foods, our mission really is to enable healthier, happier and more independent lives for each and every ability. The biggest challenge that we have from a tech standpoint is that as an NDIS and home care package provider that relies on government subsidies and government schemes, there's a whole host of operational complexities that come with that territory, from how we set clients up to how we do split billing, the record keeping requirements, and really having a CRM that supports the needs of our business and the user experience that empowers our clients. Having gone through a digital transformation at the moment, it's safe to say none of those requirements are typically off the shelf. So almost everything has to be sort of custom built and developed, and there's constant changes and headwinds, I would say, with the way in which we engage with other providers and participants and the government. So we really have to be ahead of the curve on technology and being able to be adaptive and make changes as the requirements needs of our clients, but then also the schemes in which we operate change as well. Unfortunately, we don't tend to get a whole lot of notice when there are updates and changes to the way things like billing work with the NDIS. So being able to be sort of agile and reactive and quick and I guess having a focus on technology is really important for the long-term sustainability of our organisation.
Yeah, I might jump in now and talk a little bit about Wildlife Victoria and some of our key challenges and touch on how important technology is to our organisation. So, as I mentioned at the outset, Wildlife Victoria is an emergency response service. So we're effectively the triple O for wildlife. We're a 24/7 operation. We need to be on, whether that's 2 a.m., whether it's Christmas Day, whether it's at lunchtime on a Sunday. We are literally always at work. For us, what we're actually seeing is, for our native wildlife out there, a significant increase in demand for our service. So our wildlife are increasingly impacted by climate change, urbanisation, and population growth and habitat loss. So we're actually seeing at least a 20% year-on-year demand for our service. Now, if I was a for-profit enterprise, I'd be thrilled with that sort of business growth. But for us, it means a lot of pressure. It means operational cost. It means we're really struggling to respond. And The issue for us is exacerbated by the fact that of our total operating costs, despite the public service we provide, we're receiving only 7% of our annual operating costs from state government. So we're limping along, really relying on donations to provide an emergency service. In that context, technology becomes absolutely critical. It is the backbone of our business. What we're looking for in our technology is how, in that high growth, cost constrained, high stress, fast paced environment, is technology that enables us to be as efficient as possible, that is resilient, and that can help us deal with the growth we're experiencing without blowing out operating costs, in a nutshell.
Thanks, Lisa and Spencer. Nicole, did you want to go next?
Yeah, happy to. Look, it's interesting. I grew up in the not-for-profit sector in the UK, 15 years working for a variety of different organisations in a time when technology was in its infancy. And I've spent the last 15 years playing with Salesforce and helping for-purpose organisations do things better with technology. And I am seeing things get more and more complicated as the expectations of both employees and donors and other stakeholders that not-for-profits engage with just keep going up, right? So it's constant, the change that we see, and much more rapid than it used to be. So the challenges that I see organizations face are really around that ability to act and react quickly. So making decisions quickly, not spending 6 months coming up with requirements that, again, going to be out of date. Those sorts of things, those are the challenges that I think organizations really face. There's so much change in the fundraising space, in the service delivery space. Yeah, it's a lot to keep up with.
And I'll jump in here. I'm Jeff Chellis here from Payments to Us. Payments to Us is a Salesforce App Exchange app that's been helping hundreds and hundreds of customers throughout Australia and New Zealand to meet their mission by the good work and the efforts of their generous donors. Customers have selected us as a product for the things that we do best, and that's things like regular giving, managing of payments, donations, and of course, trying to bring that together all at an affordable price. As all the others have spoken, the challenge that many nonprofits have is to be able to do more with less. In some ways, technology is changing, their needs are changing as well. What we do is we actually listen to all of those nuanced requirements and then try to productize that so that we can again bring that back as an affordable pre-built solution that our customers can quickly implement and get going. So we are a fully robust fundraising platform that includes also things like do-it-yourself campaigns, import from telemarketing, memberships as a form of managing fundraising. And we try to do that all as a standard product and try to bring it to market at the most effective price that we possibly can.
Thanks, Jeff. And this is probably, I guess, a good segue into our next question. I think, just to play back some of what you've shared there, it sounds like agility is really key. So dealing with, increasing complexity, and I guess to Spencer's point, compliance or external factors that are driving operations. And I guess to Lisa's point, scalability, and, being able to do more with less, and increased efficiency is really important as well. So with that in mind, if you're looking at investing in new capability across your business, how do you prioritize decisions around your tech stack? I guess for you, Jeff and Nicole, what capability are your customers and your clients looking to leverage, and what advice can you provide?
That's a really challenging one, and I've been here in Australia for 16 years working with not-for-profits, and I said to somebody yesterday, I've been talking about using AI in fundraising since 2014. And they were kind of like, what? That's a lifetime ago. What do you mean? We're only just starting to think about it. And I'm like, yeah, you're behind the 8 ball, right? And that is the biggest challenge for organizations, is keeping up with the pace of change of technology. And in some respects, you can kind of understand why they perhaps might not have the capacity to do that or the desire to do that. When change is so rapid, maybe you just give up and don't even try. But I think stepping into that space and stepping into that idea that taking things and smallifying, that's not a word, is it, right? Like, but chunking them down into smaller, manageable steps so that the investment that you're making isn't this massive digital transformation anymore, right? Like it's breaking the elephant down into bite-sized chunks and trying to bite off the chunks that you can achieve so that any investment you make now is low risk and is quick to value, to return value to the organization. For me, those are the key things that we work with our clients on, right? Is where's the value, how fast can we realize it, and where are the risks?
Thanks, Nicole. And I guess you brought it up, so I have to ask, in terms of AI, there's a very human element that I think underpins a lot of, what organizations in for purpose and not for profit are doing. Everyone's trying to dip their feet in the water, or they already are if they're ahead of the curve. Do you have any advice around AI, or what's low risk? What are you sort of seeing sort of over the last 12 months in that space?
Yeah, look, I think low risk is certainly internal rather than external facing, right? So we work with a lot of organizations that support people in the disability and aged care space. And I was talking to somebody this morning about using Agentforce, which is Salesforce's latest AI incarnation. And, they were very much, and we agreed, let's perhaps not unleash that on our clients, right? Like, we don't want an AI solution providing inaccurate advice to somebody who needs information, very personalized, accurate information. So we're looking at things that organizations can do internally. For example, summarizing case notes, right? When you're dealing with tens of thousands of cases each year, and you have a responsibility and a requirement to audit those cases, wouldn't it be great to have a solution that provides a simple case summary so that you don't have to read absolutely everything?
I might go in here. There's a couple of things here that we've been talking about, and one's about, how do you determine what's sort of going to be in your product and your roadmap and things like that. I know we're the only product one on here, but for us, it's a case of actually like listening to our customers through multiple channels. It could be through our implementation partners. It could be through online forums. It could be through cases. It can also be through pre-sales. And what you tend to find here is that many customers will ask for the same sort of thing or in a different sort of way. So rather than them having to reinvent the wheel every time, what we try to do is, take that information, productize it, and then, deliver it there. Some of the challenges that we have is also we've got to be one step ahead of people often. And think of not just to use technology for the sake of using technology, but to use technology in a way that makes sure that we give back value to our customers in a simple and easy to use way that they can gain value. And things like AI and all that sort of stuff have a whole lot of hidden things for us. We deal with payments, so things like security and retry logics is areas that we'll go, so customers don't have to worry about that themselves. They just magically wake up one day and they'll have all of that functionality.
So thinking about and pondering the question around investment in our tech stack. So for us at Wildlife Victoria, we're an emergency service, and the context that we operate in is if we don't pick up the phone, if we are not available, there is a suffering animal at the other end of the phone, and it is likely that we will lose a life. So as an emergency service, we are saving lives. And as a result, resilience in our technology stack is deeply important. So if I'm looking at investing in technology, we tend to be fairly risk averse. I'll be wanting to be extremely comfortable with the service management framework underpinning any new tech that we use, because resilience is absolutely critical. So for us, if we've got an outage, it's a SEV1, it's a critical incident, we're offline. And there will be suffering and loss of life. So it's deeply important that our technology is resilient. The other thing that we consider is integration. So we want an integrated tech stack where everything works well together, because we are operating at speed. So yesterday, for example, was the busiest day in Wildlife Victoria's 35-year history, where we actually fielded in 24 hours 1,032 emergency calls for help for wildlife. So that's nearly a call a minute. And some of those cases are deeply complex to manage. So integration, so that our staff can work through and triage and manage those cases to get emergency help out quickly is very important. And finally, when looking at investing in tech, we're looking at impact. We don't have time or money to invest in technology unless it's going to deliver a tangible impact on our business. So for that, we're looking at, is it going to reduce call time? Is it going to enable us to get help for those emergency calls faster? Is it going to help with resolving a case or deploying a first responder quickly? So all of those things that you would expect in an emergency service, recapping resilience, integration and impact are the key considerations for us. But again, I reiterate, we're fairly risk averse, particularly on the resilience front.
Yeah, Lisa, very, very similar, and much like the experience at Wildlife Victoria, it's very, very similar for our business, and can't be understated how important technology is to our business, because the reality is, if it fails, our clients go without eating. So if they can't place an online order, or our team aren't able to put an order through, or they can't get in touch with us, it often means that they go without food. So technology, and to your point, Lisa, the resilience of our technology is really, really important. In terms of like what we focus on, I think it really has to start with what is the problem that we're trying to solve, and if we think that it'll positively impact our ability to service our clients, but really importantly, scale as well. There has to be an element of future proofing with the technology. And Nicole, I know we're saying it's hard to keep up with the constant changes, but there definitely does have to be an element of one eye on the now and one eye on the future, and in particular to ensure that you're not over investing in a project that is going to be obsolete in a couple of years' time. So that's a big part of it. And I think if we can tick those off, then investment becomes a no-brainer. Another focus for our business has to be accessibility. Given we predominantly service those with disability and elderly Australians, the accessibility of any of our client-facing tech stack needs to be central. And what we found is it needs to be something that's made clear at the start of any project. It can't be an afterthought, and it can't be something that you try and bolt on at the end of a project. I think when we're working with any tech vendors, it's making it really clear at the start of the project what our requirements from an accessibility standpoint are, and what the expectations are. And we generally find that once you make it clear at the start of the project, it's pretty easy to get people on board. When it becomes a challenge is at the 11th hour, you go, oh crap, we've forgotten that we need to include this and that, and it just becomes a bit of a nightmare. So yeah, accessibility is a huge focus for us when we enter into any new tech project.
Thanks, Spencer. Any final comments around, I think Spencer touched on something, I think Lisa mentioned as well, around measurability. Jeff, I appreciate from your perspective, from a payment perspective, it's pretty clear. I imagine, in the fundraising space, there is a lot of, I don't know if competition's the right word, but there is a lot of noise out there. Do you have any advice in terms of someone looking to, ramp up donor or fundraising engagement? How do you cut through, and I guess how do you deliver value to someone on the other end who's maybe making that donation?
There's several areas with that side of things. So one, and this comes into a little bit of the history as well of where nonprofits were, and I used to see people, take like an offline PayPal account and transact something, and then they'd get somebody else to key it in, and get somebody else to, mail merge or type up a receipt and send it off. Quite literally, that's where things have come from. Now what I'm seeing is a lot of people are saying, well, you take a payment and you take a payment, right? So that is taken online. You need to send a receipt because that's a legal requirement, and then you've got to get it into your database, and you don't want to do any touches with it. What I'm now sort of seeing is, and particularly with non-profits for competition, if you're talking about that, is, people don't actually expect to, get a phone call or like an email that they know hasn't been, automatic generated, and that more personalization. And clearly that's where some of the AI side of things is coming in, because it can make it feel like you're doing some of these interactions automatically as well. And I think that's where you can still get that personalization and also be personal with those calls and, leverage that. I think nonprofits have, in the past used to waste a lot of money in some areas, and they didn't think there was a technology solution for it. So I'm used to, the direct mail campaigns and things like that, and they'd, send off 30,000 contacts to a third party to clean up those addresses, spend $10,000. They'd come back in, they wouldn't update their database, and next year they'd spend exactly the same amount of money, rather than having tools that are, sort of built in. So I'm seeing that the return on investment is, key at every single stage of the step. And certainly we can automate. We can be, personal and try and engage your donors, and and that really helps your cause and things like that as well.
Yeah, just on the fundraising side of things as well, obviously we've seen a real emergence of cyber security and privacy as key themes, and certainly in accepting money from donors to support us as not-for-profits, there is an expectation that those payments will be secure, and there'll be compliance with Privacy Act, which does also impose a level of cost and onus that is deeply important on not-for-profits, meaning that when we're looking at the fundraising process itself, we have to make it as easy for people as possible and utilise technology available, so that we're not having to hire 10 people in the fundraising team to manage. So I think it's an uplift in the security and insurance and privacy aspects, at the same time as increasing fundraising costs is not viable. So things need to be as efficient and easy and friendly and as customer centric as possible, in my view, from a fundraising point of view.
Absolutely. And I guess that kind of brings us to our last question. I guess from a more personal level, I think for most of you, you haven't always been in this particular sector or industry. For anyone tuning in, what surprised you about working in this space from a tech perspective? And, are there any learnings or anecdotes, or, if you were to go back 10, 20 years, what would you share to someone, in a similar position, or maybe someone who's just starting out?
I'm happy to kick us off here, because I had a very interesting role before this one. So I've spent my entire career in financial services, and in fact, prior to this role was on the technology leadership team of one of our 4 major banks here in Australia, and I was the general manager for service management and workplace technology. So hence you hear me talking a lot about resilience, because it's what I know and know well. And I must say I made the assumption, and it was incorrect actually, that moving over into Wildlife Victoria and into the for-purpose sector, that I would be dealing with a much lower level of maturity, and in my mind, borderline thinking, am I going to be dealing with Excel spreadsheets and a lot of manual work? And it wasn't the case. So I was very, very, very pleasantly surprised, and actually walked into Wildlife Victoria as we were doing a major upgrade on one of our key systems. And I think in the for-purpose world, there's a much more personal and close relationship with your technology because you understand how deeply important it is for you to be able to deliver the impact that you're there to deliver. So that's something that's been quite interesting for me to observe. What I also have seen, which is what I had expected, though, was probably a lower level of internal maturity around a lot of service management aspects. So, incident management and things like that. So a lot of that is managed by the technology provider, and certainly we've uplifted at Wildlife Victoria our internal processes around those service management aspects, because most of us can't afford to have an internal IT department, but having someone on staff with good analyst skills at minimum is extremely useful and important in ensuring our own resilience internally and managing our relationships with our technology partners. But very, very interesting and pleasantly surprised coming from the role I was in into this one, and I was proven wrong on quite a few points.
Can I jump in there, because I've done the opposite, right? I've come from the for-purpose sector and moved into the corporate world, and my surprise, I suppose, was how similar the for-purpose and the for-profit sector are, and I feel they're becoming more similar, particularly in the disability and aged care sectors, right, where you have essentially organizations delivering a service, invoicing for that service, and being paid for that service. Now, if you use those words to describe an organization, you cannot tell whether that's a for-purpose or a for-profit organization, right? You only start to see the difference when you look at the values and the passion and the drive and the commitment, and actually whether the organization makes profit or not. So for good or for bad, the sectors are in some ways coming together. So that I think was a surprise to me. But I have always focused on technology, became an accidental techie in the for-purpose sector, fell in love with Salesforce, the rest is history, right? But for me, the joy of working with the not-for-profit sector is that you're working with organizations that are there to deliver good outcomes. They're there to add to the world, not well, let's not have a conversation about capitalism and the environment. Let's leave it there, right?
And to add to that, Nicole, I think I'm 100% in agreement with you there. So where I've sort of seen things come from is almost as Lisa was describing, that many not-for-profits like 15, 20 years ago were using Excel spreadsheets. They were using access databases. The idea of putting something into the cloud was absolutely scary. They were concentrating 100% on their cause. So they'd run out and, I know in your case, maybe rescue an animal, but nobody would actually bother to, record it. And then it became difficult to, measure how many cases. You said 1,030, whatever it was yesterday. That sort of thing, those years would have been not known, because I was too busy just doing what we were as a mission. And I think the importance on, technology, the recording of it, the reporting back to your donors, reporting back to your boards, all of that has become, key. And now you almost see it as people are actually almost thinking of technology in conjunction with their cause and their mission, not as a secondary thought. And the skills, as Lisa sort of said, is meant the people that you've got on your team have also had to go up as well. So things like, AB, email testing was only corporate world speak. And now I think you'd probably find that many not-for-profits are quite familiar with what I just said there. Whereas 15 years ago, they would have jumped, nah, not interested. Now it's kind of, yeah, we need to do this.
Yeah, Jeff, I agree with that as well. In terms of being able to sort of measure and report on the social impact that we make, that we give as sort of purpose-led or not-for-profit businesses. And I see like technology being a tool to actually deliver more social good. Like, our business, for example, it's really important that we collect information to help us understand where we are having a positive impact and where we can do better. we actually recently developed a health outcomes collection program where we wanted to leverage the existing tech stack, which included Pendula. Simon was very central to getting that off the ground, but essentially we wanted to embed, find a way to embed the tracking of our positive social impact in our clients. And what that enables us to do is then advocate for them, whether that's to government, whether that's to other providers in the sector, but it really validates our offering. And then, if you can focus on that side of things, the acquisition and the client orders numbers and all that goes up in time, but like you sort of, focusing on what it is that you do at the heart of your business, which, for all of us is that social impact, and that purpose. I think that once you put that at the heart of it, and technology can be a real partner in delivering on that. But yeah, it all comes back to the data. How do you use the data for good?
And also utilisation of the data to drive business decisions when you are often very constrained in what you can do. So there's a real need, obviously, in a competitive environment for fundraising for each not-for-profit to be able to articulate the impact they're making, but also utilisation of data at Wildlife Victoria. We are using that to drive decisions through every layer of our organisation. And for example, we're a statewide organisation. We know exactly where we have high case volume. We know exactly how many volunteer first responders we've got in each part of the state. We've got a 5-year time series minimum of trends to see whether things are going up and down. And we use that information to determine our annual training schedule. So, last year we were in 6 key regional areas in Victoria delivering training on kangaroos, because we knew from the data that that's exactly where we had an urgent need for more resources. So making database decisions to undertake our work is also deeply important, because we need to utilise every single scarce dollar to its best effect.
Yeah, thank you, Lisa. And, it sounds like if I can almost summarize everything from those 3 questions, to Jeff's point, if anything, there's a level of sophistication required more than ever within your tech stack, whether that's A/B testing, AI, in this sector more than ever, that's crucial to achieving your outcomes at scale. To echo kind of what Spencer was saying, find capability that specifically aligns with, the deliverables or the outcome that you're intending to drive, and use that data to, to inform and to enrich and improve those outcomes over time. We're at the top of the hour, so thank you so much, everyone, for joining today's panel. Spencer, Jeff, Nicole, Lisa, I'm really appreciative of your time and expertise, and I guess to everyone listening in or watching in at some point throughout the day, hopefully you found this informative, and see you next time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Simon.